China?
Yes, China is fifth place with an average IQ level of 105.37.
Yeah, that fifth place is pretty surprising to me.
Hmm.
Japan, for sure.
Japan, good guess.
Yeah.
First place.
Yeah.
So Japan has an average IQ of 106.48. So you can see the ranges are not that big between
Yeah.
like top of the list versus fifth.
Right. I mean,
Literally
honestly, the fact that China's got like what, fucking 4 times the
billions.
population,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're able.
Still
That's
pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that close. Okay, so Japan and China. Is this country North America?
No.
Okay, so they're probably in Europe.
None in Europe.
None in Europe either.
None in Europe.
South America?
No. None in South America. All of them are in the same general area.
Oh, so in Asia. They're all
Yes.
Asian countries.
Yeah.
India.
No.
That that doesn't surprise me.
One of them, actually, two of them are kind of like city states.
City states. Hong Kong?
Hong Kong is one of them. Fourth place with an average IQ of 105.37.
Okay.
So you have second place and third
Singapore.
place. Singapore is
Yeah.
third place with an average IQ of 105.89.
Yeah.
So those two are actually like kind of Euro adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last one then, also another Asian country?
Also another Asian country.
Vietnam?
Vietnam? No.
No.
No, ma.
So you got Japan, China, Taiwan?
Taiwan,
Yeah.
second place. Average IQ of 106.47.
Dude, these fucking Asians, man. We're
Bro.
smart.
And so a common thing out of like, especially the top four, they're basically like island countries. And then I got to think, I'm like, yo, where's Philippines?
No, Filipinos are they're probably not even. Probably didn't crack
when God made Filipinos, just like, yo, like the IQ level, I was like, yeah, just a little bit. But singing, looks, everything else, is just like fucking all the water, bro.
So what are the interesting things about like is that the fact that they're islands?
Yeah, well, that's a common thing between the top four. Like, obviously, China is like mainland, right?
Yeah.
But like the other four, like Taiwan is an island. Japan's basically a series of islands. Singapore, I think, is a series of is an island, or is that like at the tip of, I forget, Malaysia or something like that. And then Hong Kong obviously is an island too.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Japan at number one is no surprise to me. Like that country, when you go there, it's like a whole different world, dude.
Yeah.
They got bidets everywhere. They got clean ass streets.
Everybody's got clean assholes.
Yeah, man.
That's what happens when you have a like. So maybe that's the theme, is like, what if everybody had clean assholes? Would everybody be smarter? I think that's a fair bet to make.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if you got some old crusty ass poo in your asshole,
Taking away from your IQ, bro.
Sticking away from your IQ, because a lot of that brain power is just seeping.
It's going into the dingleberries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
so let's move on to the next. So let's get into the little podcasto.
Those
yes,
pretty fun.
Yes,
fun, but,
and perhaps we'll move into. We're gonna talk about ChatGPT again at some point. But I got some
Let's
topics.
kick off with
Let's
ChatGPT.
jump right into it.
Okay,
welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Yes and Perhaps.
Welcome. Thank you for tuning in.
Hell yeah, brother.
Great to see you. It's great to hear you. It's great to feel you.
So, one thing that came up that was really interesting, because obviously ChatGPT and just AI in general has just blown up all the headlines. And one of the things that just came out is ChatGPT for all the let's say plebs, the civilians, the placebos, the everyday man, the blue, the white man, and the black man. And anyway, but ChatGPT came out with 4.0. Did you see that?
Of course, I've been using it every day since.
You've been so that's actually something because like a lot of these features were like on the paid version for
Yeah.
the longest time, and now it's just being made available to the free version, right?
I'm still paying for it too, which is probably not the best move.
How much is that?
I think it's like $20 a month.
$20 a month?
Yeah,
But it's kind of worth, bro.
it is.
Like given, especially if you're using it on a daily for like work and whatnot.
Here's what it's worth for. So, like I said, I've been using 4.0 since its release.
Yeah.
But there were a few days where 4.0 was just trash for some reason. Like I think the servers are just fucked. So switching it over to just 4, which is the paid one, it's weird because I'm paying. I feel for the one that's like not the most updated.
Fully developed.
Yeah, right. Because I think 4.0 is the most advanced and the most developed. But yeah, I was able to
Kind of
because
like a beta before 4.0 almost.
I don't know if it is, but yeah. Anyway, the point is that while 4.0 was trash, I just switched over to 4, the paid one, and was able to.
It was
use
fine.
It. Yeah,
which kind of makes sense. They probably have different have them on different servers.
And honestly, if that's the model where you get that priority as far as
paid versus unpaid.
Yeah, if that's the only difference, then I'm happy with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, what are some standouts? They released this like it wasn't really like a press conference type of deal. It wasn't like how Apple unveils new products like every year or whatever, but it was basically just a showcase on GPT 4.0, right? So let's go. Like there were some highlights that I kind of bookmarked. Let's go through some of them that kind of stood out for me, especially for me as somebody that doesn't really use it to the same degree as like you, for example. I wanted to get like kind of what your thoughts are on it. Maybe, is some of this like not necessarily fake or maybe misleading or whatever, but so you don't have to click on the link just yet. So just go back to here. So let's scroll down. So scrolling here. So one of the things that stands out about GPT 4.0, apparently they put this on their blog, is that compared to all the rest of like the competitors, like Genesis, for example, like and Meta's like AIs, apparently 4.0 beats them in like just general knowledge. Just like in a lot of like key metrics, it beats out a lot of the competitors. So that's something that stood out to me. And then when they actually when I actually watched that promo video, so a couple of things that kind of stood out is there's one part of the clip where they're doing real-time calculations. Okay, so first off, so some key things that actually kind of like stood out before some of the ones that I want to highlight. Memory functions, apparently it remembers things that you discuss for future conversations. That's kind of creepy, but also kind of cool at the same time. Free data analysis. So if you have a bunch of like charts and like raw data that you want to analyze through, instead of having to like manually go through and create things and dashboards and widgets and whatnot on like Power BI or whatever, you could just upload that data and have AI analyze it for you, like ChatGPT basically analyze it for you. So I thought like just immediately applications started coming out. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. GPT Store, apparently you could get access to a bunch of custom GPTs for like specific apps and whatnot. So I wanted to get your take on that. We'll circle back on that. But now for some of the things that really stood out to me are like real-time calculations of equations being written down. So there's this one part of the video. Yeah, so it'll take video in real time. So there was like no lag. Why didn't it go to the time?
Timestamp, brother.
Can you tell us a bit how it's different from voice memo?
Named No, ChatGPT. I really want maximal emotion, like maximal expressiveness, much more than you were doing before.
Where is the calculation?
Understood. Side, and it looks like 3x equal 3. What do you think we should do next to solve for x?
So basically, like,
I'm not sure. Can you give me another hint?
Of course.
So the guy has like using his phone, he's basically showing a video to ChatGPT, which is built in, like, which is basically an app on his phone, and it's helping him calculate this formula in real time and giving him explanations. So just from like a learning standpoint, from like a tutoring standpoint, that has crazy applications. So like, is this something that you like I don't know, like what was your reaction to these? Are you using some of these features already? Like another one was like the coding related one where he gave him snippets of like the code and it would give him what do you call it? Like explanations of what the code does.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last one, like kind of like the crown jewel of the demo was the real-time translation. To me, like that's something that's like on some crazy like Star Trek type of vibes where one guy is speaking in one language, ChatGPT is in real time acting as a translator for the next person. The next person is speaking in another language, back to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is real time translating it back to the first person in that language that first person speaks. That's crazy.
Yeah. That one's cool. I would say the crowning jewel, if that's your crowning jewel, my crowning jewel for that whole thing would probably be the visual one. Because
the
there's
visual one's a
so
close
many
second for me.
applications of that. Like just think about like just day to day, like if you get injured, you know, and you show
True. Yeah.
like, can you give me like what do I do from here? You know, like a
Right.
personal assistant kind of thing. Yeah, my reaction to it, I mean, it's like, bro, God bless these people, man, because they're really fucking they're doing us a solid. They're doing the human race a solid with all of these upgrades and improvements to AI. It is a little weird. It is a little creepy, and you could take it. You know, we've been talking about it for weeks about the different ways this
can go wrong,
and the different ways it can go wrong, because it can go very fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's cool. I think it's super dope. I did see that presentation, and man, yeah, like we're in the future, baby. We're in the future. Like I said, I use it every single day on my job. I honestly use it more than I do Googling at this point. Like
Right.
Googling is kind of just like it's
I was thinking, yeah.
so trash compared to ChatGPT.
I was thinking of that where it's just like Google is basically just like phase one. It's kind of like you're asking a question and then it's going to present to you options about like all these different kinds of responses.
Yeah.
Whereas ChatGPT is it's literally like asking the internet.
Yeah.
And it's like the answer is the average of what the internet says, and that's where it can kind of give you false answers to at the same time, because somebody could just upload a bunch of bullshit and then that's still included in the average.
Dude, you don't use it every day?
I don't use it every day. No.
I use it every day, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most I use it is when I was coming up with those shorts.
Yeah.
That like in a single day, that's what I use it the most for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely see a lot of application for it. It's more so like, you know, something that it's going to be crazy because one of the other things that came out like that I saw like come out in the past week as well is you could buy this robot. I don't know if you saw, it's like $16,000 or whatever. And yeah, let me come up here. So you can buy this droid. It's apparently like the cheapest droid that you can get. I don't know if you saw this. 4-foot tall humanoid robot.
What?
And it basically just like runs around, walks around, or whatever it can get up. But I thought that was really interesting because that coupled with it, like the whole ChatGPT conversation, it's just like, yo, you could upload AI to ChatGPT to like one of these droids now. And then like now you're really seeing on some like iRobot, like, okay, this is going really fucking fast, because you go back a couple of years, who was talking about fucking AI like this? And now it's just like an everyday normal thing.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's going to be definitely somewhere down the roadmap for sure.
For sure. Like it's the natural, yeah.
I think there's a lot of this stuff being overblown as far as timelines. Like I don't think 4 years from now we're going to get these droids that are going to be basically like human replicas. Like,
I think within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime,
for
maybe,
sure.
Maybe.
For sure.
As far as I know, from what I've heard, and
Yeah.
it's very little, but from
Yeah.
what I've heard from folks that are like on the cutting edge of this, just from podcasts and
Mhm.
like YouTube videos, when it comes to ChatGPT as like a language, as like a technology, right now it's only like
In its infancy.
it's only in one dimension of human experience or human communication, which is like text. It's text and language.
Sure. Right.
Whereas the human experience, as we know, like the sensory
Broader,
experience,
of
is
course.
vision. I mean, we saw a little bit of that from this, like vision wise, but it's also hearing. It's also like touch and feel. It's physical, right?
Mhm.
And so as far as that domain goes, like we haven't even touched the surface yet.
So I guess in the domain, I think maybe is that just being framed in the context of like having droids that are basically
So I'll give you an example.
Indifferent, like you can't tell from like a human versus like a robot. I don't really mean that. I'm talking about just from the application of having like a daily helper. like a robot being automated to clean my fucking car, clean my house, like that shit. Not actually having like a sentient like AI that can become my best friend, and like now like relationships are gonna completely go out the window because everybody's gonna have a fuck doll that basically is a sentient subservient being, basically, right? I don't necessarily mean that. Is that what kind of like what you're getting at?
Right. I think that's what I'm getting at. I think for like we're already at the cusp of developing stuff where we're automating and we're helping and we're addressing mundane tasks like cleaning your car, cleaning your fucking house. Like we have that with what are those little things called? Those little shits that clean your house.
Oh, the iRobot.
No,
the robot, the
Gibble or some shit. Gibble.
I don't know, but it's crazy that there's AI on those vacuums now, apparently, where like it'll recognize whether or not something's dog shit, and some of the shittier ones will
Roomba, that's what it's called.
Yeah, will fail at recognizing that it's dog shit and just smear the dog shit all over the floor.
Yeah. So
still in its infancy, clearly.
Still in its infancy, but I think those mundane tasks that are like we see it also in like sushi restaurants with the fucking little robots that are going
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And as long as the task again has to be like mundane, it has to be mundane, but also I think the thing that makes the sushi example work is because the store never changes, right? And if it does change, you have to I think I'm just guessing you manually have to like change the path that it takes while it's serving.
So it's not a true
food.
AI per se,
right?
That particular one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it is AI in the sense that it can like go and bring people's orders from A to B in a set path. Again, like I'm just guessing that it's doing it in a set way because the store never changes. Like the restaurant never changes like its format.
Right.
So if that's a very like mundane kind of
a very specific task.
A very specific task,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you change that equation a little bit and you change the store like every week, that'll be more. I think that will cause more pain to the business than it would had you not. So
yeah, I just found it like because I think that's just a natural inclination when you see those two technologies separately. I think it's just a natural fit, obviously. But it's a wild time because now I went down that rabbit hole and I was just like, well, what kind of droids can you get, right? Because I'm like 16,000. That doesn't seem like all that much. Let's see what else is out there. So check this out. It's a wild time, bro. First off, I found it kind of weird that this droid's kind of biting. Like it kind of looks like the droid's biting its lip a little bit, right?
What are we even? So we're looking at a site that's.
So this is a site that sells different droids. So check out the different droids that you can cop.
Business robot,
right? So I've seen this like online. I've seen this online a bunch.
Yep.
Now this is where it gets a little weird, right?
I mean, hey, if there's a market for it,
exactly.
Fuck it. You make a profit off of it.
Man, like look, Ex Machinima, man, that is a creepy movie, and I think it's not so far off. Like, look at this, utility droids. Like, bro, this is Star Wars, man. Look at this.
Yeah.
Robot. You could get robot pets. You could get where's this one? The real dolls.
Yeah.
Look at these shorties. Look at these robot shorties. That's weird. That's so creepy. There's I didn't see these. These are dudes. Like what the?
Yeah.
Natural. I guess
out of stock. A lot of these are out. Well, they probably only make like 5.
Yeah, dude.
Each.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting, man. Like I think one thing that I found interesting as well is just about my general kind of like feeling and outlook of it is like all these things are happening right now and everybody's just kind of like accepting it and no one's not really stopping like, yo,
well, it's solving
this is fucking weird.
Solving a lot of problems, man.
Well, what kind of problems? Like, solving what kind of problems?
Well, what do you mean with the robots or just AI in general?
Just AI, just like where AI is, because we haven't even talked about the military application of AI just yet. That's fucking crazy too, bro. Like the fight, like Maverick. There's gonna be no more. That was literally the whole point of the latest Top Gun movie is that these guys, like human pilots, are being phased out.
And honestly, man, fuck it. We want more people to live and give and make and reproduce. You know what I mean? So if that means saving a few fighter or whatever they call fighter jet pilots from going up there making human errors and fucking,
that's not wrong. But I feel like Well, I guess humans can be compromised as well, but technology can obviously be freaking compromised. Look at like the Chinese are notorious for stealing technology, stealing tech, and like look at their latest jet, for example. It's literally the F-35.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so now you upload it with an AI. Who knows whether or not these companies or these governments, if they're basically play, it's kind of like the same thing as playing with viruses, like on some Wuhan, like you're playing with fire, bro. And the crazy thing is you can't fault them because if you're not doing that, somebody else is gonna be doing that. They're gonna have an advantage on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, bro, are we like, I feel like you shouldn't really create a technology that you can't respond against. And what I mean by that is like, what if we do lose control of on some Skynet, Terminator?
Yeah.
Like that's just like going down this path opens up that door naturally, right?
It does, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
The door's been open. You know, the door's been open. We're open for business.
Oh, it's but like we're just here, like it's a great day today. Like
yeah, no,
there's no problems.
Who am I going to vote for?
Like, bro, it's kind of wild though. But who knows? Like maybe our like generations from now, we figured it out. I think let's be optimistic about that, I guess.
Yeah.
And we have some
like
R2D2s running around helping us out.
Like I said, like as far as sentience goes, like, I don't even know if that's a word, but in terms of it being like its own sentient thing, we're only scratching the surface.
Yeah, no, this is just phase 1, bro.
Yeah, like
phase 1.
As far as like just like sensory senses, right? Like how humans, like the gap between us and ChatGPT, humans and the AI that we see today, is still fucking eternities apart.
But what are you getting at though? Are you getting at like what would be the matching where you have a sentient like robot that is basically
there's just so much more packed in the human experience.
100%. I'm not saying that there isn't, but I guess like I'm still not sure about what you're getting at. Like you're talking about the gap between humans and like AI. Are you like you're talking about like having a sentient robot that can feel and think that it's like literally not a robot, but it might think it is actually a human? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, what I'm saying is that right now, and you asked a question before, is that what problems are solving? It's solving a lot of problems. It's helping out a lot of people.
Like AI is
right now as a tool. It's a game changer.
Right.
And if you're not using it, and if you're not trying to find ways to implement it in your day to day, I would say that you're kind of at a disadvantage because people that are using it are way more productive. Have access.
That's kind of arguable. Like they can be more productive.
Yeah,
it opens up the door for that. Yeah,
sure.
But you know what? I think that's an important distinction to make, just because otherwise it becomes like it's just like an over reliance on AI where you might think you're productive when really you're not being productive at all. You're just making it seem like you're like, so it's just like the equivalent of someone doing an assignment. Yeah, they're productive in that they handed in the assignment, but what do they actually hand in?
Yeah.
They didn't really hand in anything net new. They just handed in like something that's AI, right?
Right.
Like, so is it really doing that person a favor? This is why I was talking about like, do we need to over automate shit? Because at some point, the more shit that we rely on the technology for, like to be productive, maybe in some ways we're weakening ourselves as well, right?
Well, it depends on the context, right? Again,
for sure, context is important. Yeah.
If we use it in the context of it being used only for shit that's like mundane, that's like shit that you don't even want to deal with, there's a lot of value in that. And there's a lot of mundane shit that's out there that it's saving a lot of people's time and energy on, right? Yeah. Whereas on the creative side, if you ever were to try using ChatGPT to like make a joke, it's terrible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything creative. Like I asked it the other day to make me like a picture of something that for one of our shorts.
Yeah.
And it was garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So on the creative side, I think it will honestly always to an extent be garbage. Because creativity and like making jokes and
from a creativity standpoint, for sure, yeah,
right.
But it gets so close, bro. It's crazy, like especially like a songwriting standpoint.
Yeah,
the songs, it's
written songs,
hilarious.
Yeah. I think from my experience using it, like asking it to make pictures, asking it to make images, or just writing like something that's to my degree of like dark humor, or just like like something like that, something along those lines. It's just it doesn't hold a candle.
Do you foresee a future where we would be voting on like AI presidents and AI like? Because like if you look at it from like to your point earlier, like it's just logic. It's using cold hard logic, and arguably like you can if you would want that from like directing society, right? Like it makes the most sense logically in terms of like how to proceed or like how to make decisions on some of the stuff. But
I would want to as like a tax paying citizen, but I don't think people that are in politics would want that.
yeah, I think there's certain to your point. I think I see a lot of application.
I think a lot of business leaders would
I
want
think there's
that.
a lot of application in like road design, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like how do you run certain like social programs, for example, like stuff like that. But maybe because it's heartless, it doesn't like take in like certain nuances of that type of accurate. But that's a crazy rabbit hole. But I just, for me, going back to my kind of like the original, why this is kind of really interesting to me is just like, yo, this is just, we're all just taking this at face value and we're just bringing it in and we're just like going about our days and integrating into our lives. And I mean, are we driving into this future where we're not really actually stopping and considering, fuck, like, is this a good idea? Do we keep going down this path?
I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, it's a technology, it's a tool. And just like any tool, it's up to the user to determine how they're going to apply it, right? But yeah, no, I think it's like if AI is analyzing this, I'm not against AI. I'm not. You know what I mean? Don't come after me, Skynet. You know what I mean?
Skynet.
But it does beg to. I think more of these types of conversations kind of need to happen. I don't know.
I think a lot of those conversations are happening. They're just not making those headlines right now. Like I think a lot of people are talking about and being pessimistic about the other side. Most of them, like I think there was one dude that used to work at the company OpenAI. I think he was like a scientist there or something, and he had like a pretty big reputation at that company. Now not so much because he left, and he was talking about all these ideas about like he's kind of like a pessimist when it comes
like
to it.
Ethics?
So,
Was he talking about like
not ethics, but the need for, if we keep going down this path, the need for things like UBI, the need for more social updates to like our.
So he was bearish on AI.
Well, not. I don't think he was bearish necessarily on the path that we're on right now.
Yeah.
It's just like that we need, if we want to function alongside it, or if we want to like if we want to thrive as a society,
like integrate it
into society. Because it's going to take a lot of people's jobs
for sure
at the end of the day. And so if we want to keep going down that path, then we need to consider
we have to prepare for it.
Updates to our
society.
System. Yeah, society, right? Like you think ideas like UBI for just an example.
Yeah,
that was the big headlining article that I read about that dude. I forgot his name, but there's a case to be made that UBI will probably make sense for a future where ChatGPT and
theoretically, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because like again, like you're taking a lot of people's jobs.
But at the same time, like UBI, do you like and maybe I'm just jaded, but I think something like UBI. Okay, I think, and maybe it's just an anecdotal a concept, but I think that a lot of the greatest art comes from struggle and comes from pain and comes from dark places. And what I mean by that is when you have something like, theoretically, if everybody was on UBI, that opens up the door that now you can actually pursue what you're really, really passionate about, right? But, and maybe it's just my own experience, but I think that UBI in some ways, if that was actually the case, I don't think that would actually, maybe I'm just pessimistic. I just don't think that would be the case. I think people would just not pursue the shit that they're actually passionate about if everything else was satisfied and met for them. I think there needs to be an underlying struggle and like UBI almost takes out the struggle and shit, bro. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just like my old conservative traditional type of mentality, but I don't know if UBI is almost. I don't think that UBI is necessarily the answer, the only like the only solution to people losing jobs. Maybe we create more industry. I don't know what the answer is. All I'm saying is UBI at face value for me anyway. I don't know. Do you think it's necessarily a good idea, like based on your experiences with like people and like their motivations and their and like and the way that they're incentivized?
I think it's terrible right now. Like if you were to implement UBI tomorrow and for the next 10 years, if you ask me the question, would that bode well for society as it is right now, even with things like AI on its trajectory that it's on right now?
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years, I think it's going to do more harm than good.
Yeah.
But I think if you were to ask me 100 years from now,
right,
would UBI or things of that nature make more sense? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think it's a better case. I think because again, this technology is gonna put a lot of people without work.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of mundane like
the food and beverage industry is it can be fast food can be automated today, but it doesn't. It's not, and it's probably in the best interest of those companies to do it actually, right? Like if you were just to use cold hard logic,
right?
Yeah. That's it. Like at the very least, this technology is arguably the biggest disruptor in recent we were talking about technologies earlier. It's a crazy big disruptor, and I think we're just in the infant stages of the degree and magnitude of what this is actually going to result in.
If AI replaced your job, what would you want to pivot into?
Bro, I'm going back to the Philippines, dog. No, I don't know.
I'll probably go into like some health and fitness thing. I think the jobs that involve like actually moving your body.
Yeah, no, I think I would probably if it was I would probably double down on this. I would double down on this honestly because something creative.
Yeah.
Jujitsu. Like how are you going to replace a jujitsu AI for example? You really can't.
Yeah.
And that's actually going back to the droid thing. I think that's a really cool fucking application. Is like, yo, can you upload a droid, like a combat droid, give it like jujitsu skills, and now that becomes like your sparring partner. Like, look at all the like League of Legends, like all those guys that basically practice against AI now. It's the same thing, right? But now it's in the physical space as opposed to the virtual, right? So I think that's a really cool application. Is just like the ability to practice certain skills that from like a sport perspective or whatever. I think that's something that would be really cool.
That's a good example. I don't know if that is necessarily a 1-for-1 because jiu-jitsu, there's a lot like anything physical versus something that's a virtual game like a chess or a League of Legends because of that physical aspect. Like there's so much of jiu-jitsu is feel and like that the sensory the actual sense of physical touch, right? Like feeling if you're going to set up a trap or something like that. Exactly.
Like you could train blindfolded for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's actually a great
all 100%
a great way to train actually.
Whereas like when it comes to like League of Legends and chess, where it's on a screen and it's like,
oh yeah, no, I was only using that as an example of.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying like it's I could definitely see a path where later down the line, again going back to sentient AI, that being a possibility, like 100 years from now, maybe even like 1,000, if that's how long it takes, no matter how long it takes. Yeah, for now, like I think that's like given the fact that you can only do that on a screen and it's like chess, right?
Right.
It's like A to B position,
exactly.
to C, right?
Chess is such a cool game, man, because there's something about how like there are more variations of movement in chess than there are atoms in the known universe, or some shit like that.
Yeah. Or I think that's Go.
Is it Go?
I think it's Go.
Yeah. Okay. True.
Go. Yeah.
Go is wild.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Go is wild. But
even we were able to solve that problem too.
I know from the AI standpoint, because that was always seen as like the holy grail of AI, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a really cool documentary about it. I think it's just called Go or some shit.
I think so. Yeah. I watched that too. That was
cool. So I think this is just to kind of like wrap this topic, and we could jump into something that you like. But I think this is a topic that's definitely going to be a recurring topic. It's only going to become more and more prevalent in our lives.
100%.
And it's we're just in the infancy stages right now, so it's so hard to kind of like like predict what it's going to be outside of like what we've seen in literally science fiction novels and like media, whether it be movies or whatever, right? So that's why a lot of like I think the general attitude and feeling is like almost negative, because that's literally the plot of a lot of art, right? And is like we end up in this dystopian world that where we have like these AI overlords, which is so fucking crazy that Frank Herbert, the writer of Dune, like kind of not predicted, but like spoke about this and made like a lot of his story about like the what do you call it, the Butlerian jihad, where the human race basically killed off all of like AI life because of that, because of they were being controlled by AI overlords. This is like in the 60s, 70s, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the biggest disruptor. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. All I know is, man, you fucking if everyone had an R2D2 at home to help them with all that fucking mundane shit that they
I know exactly. I would save so much time just not having to mow my lawn, bro.
Bro, if
Oh
someone can
my
solve
goodness.
that problem, bro, throw as many billions as you can to make that shit affordable and part of everyday life, kind of like the PC, the way Gates did with Microsoft, bro.
Dude,
game changer.
There's a lot of things about just like owning a house where I'm just like, yo, yeah, I'm happy, but at the same time, it's just like, why'd I do this to myself?
Yeah.
Just like upkeep, like all these remedial tasks. Like,
Yep.
yeah, for sure, these chores, yeah.
Yep. So,
be.
that's like one thing that stood out was when I asked you the question of what career you would want to pivot into. I think you're right. Like I think that's one of the careers when it comes to content creation and making some kind of creative path, specifically content creation, since that's what we're doing, obviously, with the pod and with the content that we're making. But one of the things that got me thinking over the week was not only how AI is going to affect that, but how is content creation going to evolve? Because I actually watched a couple of things prompted me to think this. One of them being us having to kind of reiterate and improve our processes and release stuff that we think is good, but also balance that with what we think the algorithm would like. And so this week we talked about it before the pod. Didn't really have the kind of performance that we wanted to, as far as the in the domain of viewership and that kind of thing. We made videos that we personally really liked, but I think content in general, if you want to do well, is a combination of making stuff that you like personally, that you could be proud of and be like, yo, like that's sick. Like I really like this, and I'm gonna do it for myself.
It has to meet that. If it doesn't meet that, like, nah, I'd rather not. Yeah.
It also has to meet the criteria of the algorithm, because the algorithm, if you make something that is good, is going to reward you.
Right.
Right. And then there's also the audience aspect, right? You got to make stuff that people want, right? Supply and demand. So I think those three are the facets of content creation,
right?
That, yeah, they're kind of like the guiding lights as far as if you want to actually do well in a way where you can probably possibly support yourself, right? And do this full time or whatever time fits your life, right? So that being said, again, when it came to the content we produced the past week, having reached the 3-digit gang recently, we didn't have the performance that we would like in that domain of making stuff that the algorithm really liked, right? My question is with AI and just in general, I think over the next 20 years, like it got me thinking, like, how is content going to change? Like, are those three guiding lights ever going to change? Like, will there be like a shift in what the algorithm likes, for example? And like, how will that affect the other two? Like what we want to make and what the audience wants, right? Like, have you given that any thought?
This is the billion, if not $trillion question of where content is going, because as things become over automated, I think this is just like how everything else is in its infancy. Multimedia in this space is in its infancy, and people are just going to want more and more content. And especially with the advent of certain technologies like Vision Pro and just general like advancements and just like television and just the way that we all connect with each other, we're just in its infancy, right? So the interesting thing that really stands out to me for that is who's controlling the algorithm. So why is that an important question? Because obviously, depending on how content's being rewarded by the algorithm is going to determine what's being consumed, because that's what's being put out in front of people, right? Like the things that pop, the things that the algorithm chooses are the ones that are actually going to be shown and presented to the broader audiences, right? And so now when you look at, well, who actually controls these algorithms? Well, these people that control the algorithms are the ones that control these applications, like your Googles, your Instagrams, and Meta, and your Snapchat, and your TikToks, for example. And when you actually dig into the details, it's interesting that certain applications will have different algorithms in different regions. So this is where it gets really fucking weird, because, for example, TikTok's algorithm supposedly in America is different from the algorithm within, say, China or Southeast Asia. Apparently in China and Southeast Asia, the things that pop are things that are more educational, things to do with doing good in school, things to do with science, things that the country as a whole, actually, it's in their best interest to have their youth be interested in. Right, so education, like, the things that like there's your STEM topics, for example. Whereas you have the algorithm in like America, apparently rewards like content creators, like bullshit. Basically, it's not anything that is probably advantageous for America, right, or for the West, not necessarily just America. But so that when you were kind of describing what you were talking about, that's kind of immediately where my mind went, is like, yeah, absolutely. Like, as far as content goes, I think there's just going to be explosion of it. I think there's going to be even more niches, and then these niches are going to branch off into even more super niches, because it's not only just going to be about like the actual topic itself, it's about like how you consume it. Are you going to be consuming it through like gaming, like streaming, for example? Are you going to be consuming it through like Vision Quest or Vision Pro, or your phone, or like TV, home entertainment? I think this is, it's only going to start, it's just going to keep multiplying, honestly. And what's really going to stand out for me is like what does the algorithm reward? Because that's going to be a telling sign of like what kind of strings are being pulled in the background. And that could be a sign of like, that could be like a like sign of like, okay, well, what's actually being incentivized here? Like, what's actually popping? Like, why is it popping that way? That's kind of like what I'm like, not necessarily monitoring, but that's kind of like what I'm keeping an eye out for. That's what that I find interesting in that.
Yeah. I think that there's a certain formula that makes things trend or go viral, or just a recipe, if you will. Like a good example of that would be the way, Mr. Beastifying YouTube to a degree, like the stuff that's really going crazy that the algorithm favors in YouTube is if you make kind of Mr. Beast type content with the whole formula, like the top down,
it's really well thought out,
formulaic kind of a thing, right? So I think that is a formula that's working today in North America. I can't speak for any other country, because obviously
I think that still applies across the board. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right. You would think, right? I'm not necessarily
like those best practices. I think that's what you're getting at, is like the best practices of like what makes something pop. Like in general. So I think that's where like we've already started doing that, is like systemizing it. We could definitely there's still so many gains to be made, obviously, just by our viewer count alone. But I think, to your point, from a philosophy standpoint, from like where, yes, it perhaps sits, it's like at base minimum, I only want to be creating shit that I think is dope. Like, if you like that, and that's the artistic expression, right? Because yes, this is a podcast, but this is also, if it's an art. Podcasting is an art. Creating content, obviously, inherently is an art. And I do definitely want to focus on things that are going to pop ultimately for the algo. But I think, if anything, if you were to ask me, what do you prioritize more? I think we at base minimum, we have to do those best practices, to your point, of like what makes things pop from like a production standpoint. But in terms of the actual content itself, it's like just things that we're actually interested in. So maybe that's how we approach it, where it's just like content, the actual subject matter that's being talked about is things that we actually care about, so that it comes off as like actually authentic. Like, I don't want to be talking about shit that we don't care about. But in terms of like the algo and like getting like trying to like, pop on the algo, I think that's where we have to cover our bases for like the best practices, to your point, like from a thumbnail and everything else, right?
Yeah. And perhaps one facet of that that we need to consider more as we continue to grow, and at the end of the day, is not only a creative pursuit in my eyes, but it's also a business pursuit, in the sense that we have customers, in this sense, viewers that audience that are going to tune in regularly. So we want to satisfy their needs as well. And so if we're able to find our voice and carve out our own little special thing here in YMP that is pleasing people out there, and eventually get to call those people one of our own, our audience, then I think it's, again, that balance of that trifecta, pleasing ourselves, pleasing the audience, pleasing the algorithm. I was really curious just about how, if at all, the algorithm will change as far as what they actually reward, like, because that's a big thing, right? Like, I think it's one thing to have an audience, it's one thing to make stuff that you like, but at the end of the day, we're kind of serving.
But that's but that's,
so
yeah,
just to complete that thought, is it's great, and I'm on board with you that I want to make more shit that I want. I want to make more shit that you guys want, that you guys that fuck with us want to see, and hopefully you fuck with the stuff that we're making right now today, because we really like making this.
You got to trust us. You got to trust us that we're gonna create stuff that we think you like, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That we think you like, and that is an important distinction to make. It's not just about us, right? And even this applies to business as well. It's not just about the business owner and making their pockets as deep as possible. It's about adding value, right? And so hopefully you guys get value out of this, and obviously we're going to look at the stuff, the research and the analytics, to make sure that we're coming in every single week to give you more of that stuff. That being said, on the algorithm side, today there's a formula for it. Today there's a very distinct Mr. Beast formula that is being rewarded, right? If you're not already in the algorithm because of that, then you got guys like that have been doing it for years, like Rogan, for example. He's in he would be on the category of people that are in the algorithm already, that are reaping the benefits of that for years. And so necessarily, they don't have to make stuff that fit that Mr. Beastify formula, because they're already been doing it for years. I think of Charlie too, Moist Critical. They've been doing it for years. They upload 4 or 5 times a week, maybe even every single day. And so the algorithm naturally favors them because of time, because of repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for new content creators, especially if your horizon is a decade, 2 decades, and as things, because today is not going to be like what it is tomorrow, like how, like what is that balance going to look like for us, right? Like, is it going to be a straight line, 33%, 1/3 for audience, ourselves, and the algorithm? Do we have to favor more for the algorithm? Maybe the distribution would be like 60, 20, 20.
Scalability wise, I think it's me, it's us. I think we prioritize us, because that's what's going to keep it scalable. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm going to discount the algorithm and the audience completely, for sure. But I think what's going to keep me coming back to the table to create is whether or not is it something that I want to do. It has to meet that at a base minimum. Then I'll think about, okay, well, how am I going to make this a so what for the audience? And I think you brought up two great examples, actually, because they kind of present the two extremes of the approaches, right? You have one extreme, which is your Mr. Beast, where he really studies the game and really analyzes like what does well and why it does well, and then systemizes his approach so that it kind of hits all those variables. Whereas on the other end of the extreme is Joe Rogan, where it's just like he doesn't give a shit. especially in the beginning. Maybe now because like he gives a shit about the audience in a sense, especially when he's interviewing people, so that he is acting as like an avenue, like almost not an avatar, but like a
liaison,
liaison to try to for that person to convey their ideas in the best way possible. So I think that that's where he's keeping the audience in mind. But I think in terms of in the long run, in the 10-year horizon, if you were to ask me what's going to keep you coming back, it's not like, yes, it's definitely for the viewers. I'm not here trying to say like, oh, I don't care about the viewers. Of course I care about the viewers, but I'm going to tell you right now, for the viewers that are watching, what's going to keep me coming back is like stuff like you can always count on me, on us. I think that it's always going to be genuine and authentically stuff that we're into. And if it's not, like, I don't like, why are we doing it just for the views? Because if it's just for the views, I'm probably not going to be as enthusiastic or authentic about it. You know what I mean? And this goes back to what we were talking about in the earlier podcast, is like, it has to be genuine. It has to be authentic. It has to be stuff that we're actually interested in. Because if it doesn't meet that baseline, like, kind of requirement, like, why are we doing it? Right? I don't know. Maybe you feel maybe you feel differently about it.
There's a pod that I listened to that kind of also prompted this question or this topic as well for me, and it was from this YouTube group. They're called the Try Guys. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
But they make kind of like just lifestyle. I would brand as lifestyle content, just funny little, like, they do like kitchen videos and stuff like that. They just make funny, cool videos, and they have a pretty decent subscriber base, like 9 million or something like that. So they're doing well. And I think a couple of weeks ago, related to this, is we talked about guys that were getting shit on YouTube for wanting to move a different group for wanting to move to a subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time we were like, that's kind of like a death sentence, right? I think a big reason why for that, looking back in hindsight, was just the way they positioned it.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys brought up that being a model that they're considering going forward. And after, at first glance, when I first hear like, oh, like
what do you mean model? Like
the subscription model?
Oh yeah.
Like a kind of like a Patreon model.
Yeah.
Right. But the reasons that they provided were actually the rationale that they provided for that move that they're considering to go into more of a Patreon model was very sound. It was very reasonable too, because this also got me thinking, like, will this be the future of content creation going down the line as well? Like, will there be more? And I think the answer to a degree is yes. I think there's going to be more people, more content creators that are going to pivot into some kind of subscription model where they're able to really, I want to use the word magnify, but what's a better word? They're really able to
carve out their niche.
Yeah, go down the path of making the stuff that they
right.
and their viewers really like, and
right.
not the algorithm.
Exactly.
Right. So that model really makes sense if that's the road that you want to go down.
Yeah.
Now the problem with that is obviously building it from the ground up is going to be tough, because like if we were to do that today, I don't think it would bode well for us, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's just, I think it's a really good complementary move to make if you already have an audience that you can move on to that.
Yeah.
Because the problem that they were having was that their audience, although they had a subset of their viewer count and their subscriber count that would tune into every single episode, I think their number was like 30 to 40% would be the diehard fans, their diehard audience people that would tune in and watch the whole video that they make.
Right.
And the problem that they were facing is that that was just not sustainable for them, basically. And so the problem with that is because the algorithm wasn't, they basically weren't being favored by the algorithm. The content that they were making that they liked and that their 30% to 40% of their audience really enjoyed wasn't being favored by the algorithm. And so to solve that problem is to take that 30 to 40% that really fuck with them and go into the Patreon model where they're able to get at the same sustainability as if it was 100% of their view count that were going through the entire video on YouTube, right? So I think that made sense from that approach, because now they completely bypass the algorithm with the Patreon model, and they're able to just make whatever the fuck they want. And at the same time, that 30 to 40% of people that also move, assuming 100% move onto that model, now they're getting the full support from them. They're getting a monthly subscription from them. And it's the stuff that again, that they really fuck with.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's a trifecta of things. I think with the content that we create has to hit on all 3 points for sure. And that is it shit that we want to do? Is it shit that we think that our viewers, the people that we want to actually make this for, want to see it? And also the algorithm, right? But if you were to ask me what weighs the most, yes, to me right now the algorithm is almost low. Like if anything, the way if I were to approach is like it has to meet these first 2 things first, which are the audience and us, and then we have to find ways to have the reward, the algorithm rewarded as much as it can. Because if we went down this like I look at like a show like a Kill Tony, for example. On paper, that show should not do well from an algorithm standpoint. That show should not do well, but it doesn't but it does because it's all authentic. It's stuff that they want to do. It's stuff that it's for their viewers more so than anything. And it just because it's like I guess what I'm getting at is I would want to create for us a show, a product that is so undeniable that the algorithm has no choice but to reward us. That's all. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the dream for sure. And so that's going to be
I just don't want to come off as hacky, because people that just go for the algorithm are just hacky. That's all. And
I think people are striking a really good balance, though.
But that's what I mean. There needs to be a balance. Yes.
I think guys like Jason Tran, for example, or even to a degree, like say Mr. Beast as well, because I don't think Mr. Beast is just like, yeah, he's really excellent at making videos that are algorithm friendly, but at the same time, the content itself is fucking sick.
It's sick. Yeah, it's high production. He puts a lot of money into it. He literally sinks.
Well, it's not even just the production
so much,
but it's also just like the idea.
Yeah, exactly. The concept. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So like that's kind of balance that I think for, because not even just us, but I think also for the value for the viewers that might be thinking about content. Like these are things that you got to think about if you want to go down this again creative road.
Yeah.
Of trying to make stuff videos that other people like, and so this is our art right now, and we just only at the cusp. We're
for sure
only at the front door. We just checked in, so we'll see how that evolves. But again, I think
it has to be authentic.
Not even again, but this is just, I think this is a game at the end of the day. This is a sport. Like I look at this as like a sport
for sure,
and the people that are going to win at this sport are the people that are going to do what they got to do.
I guess what I'm getting at is I don't want to sell out.
Yeah, we're not.
And because imagine if Joe Rogan were to try to like be I don't know.
Well, Joe Rogan has a formula that works, and it's been working for years, and he's in the algorithm because of that formula that he's been it's tried and true and it's tested, and that's
undeniable,
like, right?
Yeah.
It's undeniable. It's what he's built from the ground up. And honestly, you could pin that to luck. You could pin that to good timing, right?
Hey, timing is a big factor.
Timing's a huge factor, brother. Sure. That was before the days of thumbnails and trying to get people to click on your video with your little title and stuff. Whereas now, if you're like us today in 2024, you got to put a little bit more weighting on that if you want to survive, because at the end of the day, like it's just the way the sport evolved, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, you're kind of implying that we're surviving on this. We're not. We're
no. But that's the goal.
All I'm getting.
I hope that's the goal, because
it is a goal. Yeah. It is a goal, but I don't want to sell out on the way.
Yes. No. And that's
because like
going down.
I'll tell you, like I am getting like almost a sense that like you're like it's. If we're just gonna lap it up to the algo and like just focus on popping on the algo, I'm probably gonna be like, I don't want to do that.
No, that's not. This is not the goal for us, and this is not the goal. That shouldn't be the goal for any of you guys.
Yeah.
All I'm saying and all I'm implying is that this is a sport, and to be successful in the sport, if you want to win to a certain degree, if you want to win in this sport, you have to meet a few criteria, base minimum, right? And you can't just neglect making stuff for yourself. You can't just neglect making stuff for people, supply and demand. And you can't just neglect the algorithm too, right? If you're on this platform, which we're on YouTube at the moment right now, right? Those are 3 factors that while we're doing this, and if we want to do an excellent job at it, I think by default you have to.
You have to cover the bases. You have to cover the bases.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying like, and like selling out this and that. That's not to say that anyone that's achieving that at a high level are selling out.
Some of them are.
You know,
for sure they are.
Sure,
some of them are.
Not everyone is.
Not everyone is.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's, I would think that the true sellouts, like the most not authentic, but the most pure sellouts are the ones that are only making content for the algorithm.
That's exactly.
That's
what I would avoid.
That's
all I'm getting at.
100% not what I'm trying to apply here.
Yeah.
That is not like, I just want to be excellent at the base minimum. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Because again, this is
we got to cover our bases for the algo. Yeah.
We can't. It's not like fucking basketball back in the day where you can, if you were to come in and just be good at like dribbling, shooting, whatever, or you would be good at the sport back in like the 50s. Whereas now, if you were just come in as like a one-dimensional player, like, you're not gonna go that far.
Well, no, I think
you know what I mean?
So. For what you're getting at, it's almost like a UFC fighter before. You can't just get off of like before. You can just get on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But now you need a good basis on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's a good example.
I agree. No, 100%. Like the way that you were framing it earlier, it was like, bro, I'm not going down this path. I'm not doing that. I'm not selling it out. I'm not leaving. But
I don't know if it was the way that I framed it. I think it's just the way that
I probably took it. That's probably how I took it.
Yeah.
But
Which is understandable.
But I'm protective of that because, like, bro, like, we put a lot of time and effort into this. I don't want to just fucking make it turn into something where it's like, I don't want to.
But yeah,
I don't want to do this.
That's the thing, though, too. Like,
and to finish that point is like, what I'm getting at is what's gonna keep me coming back here is that it's authentic. Is that like this is something that I want to do, right? And what's to me in my eyes what's scalable and what I'd rather have people viewing us for us is that it's our authentic selves. I don't want people coming and viewing us and like becoming fans off of some shit that I'm like, oh, we just did that because for the algo. That's all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I'm getting.
And there's a path to what we're doing right now where we could marry all three.
Yes, and I think that's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's 100%.
That's really what I was.
100%. Okay, bet.
Right.
All right.
And so that being said, that really is the goal. And if you're going into content 2024 in fucking May today, like that should be. I think that's. You know, being able to be sick at all three of those things
for sure
is going to it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun to figure out and to work on as a creative pursuit. So we'll see.
And I think this is an important thing for creators that happen to be watching. I think this is such an important thing and obviously like what kind of, this is like a white belt talking to like another person that's training.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
But I think that's something that's so important and that is always going to come back is like, you have to figure out what your philosophy is to this. Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to have a finalized philosophy, but as you're doing this, I think you need to be kind of asking yourselves these questions to make sure, especially if you're working with other people, that you're on the same page and stuff. And then from there, you can then trust each other to make decisions that are aligned to that vision. And you could work independently and you don't have to like micromanage each other and whatnot. Like I know that when you're putting together a short, I don't have to be over your shoulder. You know that when I'm when I'm putting together a short, that you could just give me feedback and then I'll work that into the next one. Like we have a discussion, it's a discourse, and seeing where it goes. And I think, you know, for content creators, I think you know, and something that we want to instill as well is you have to have these conversations around like what are you actually about and not just kind of selling out to the algorithm. You know what I mean? That's all. Because it comes off so, it's so easy to just like see that when it's not authentic and it's just like, yeah, you're just like lapping it out to the crowd or whatever. But anyway, so
you know, with those, although there are a few people, there are a handful of people that are able to do that well, such that to a point where like they're just fucking biting their tongue for sure, and they're like, fuck this shit, but they're in a situation,
they're putting in the time, yeah.
They're in a situation where it's tough to fucking leave because of whatever, the money, whatever.
Exactly.
But I would argue that those people, you know, they're missing out on.
They are
on one, arguably the best aspect, which is making stuff for them.
Because you just imprisoned yourself to something that you can't walk away from.
Because again, just tying the knot in that whole topic, it's a trifecta, it's a triforce. You gotta, but what the fuck do we do? You know, at the end of the day, like I just thought of that, and you know, just triforce of content. We're dumb as shit.
We are so Exactly.
We are so dumb and we are so ugly. So just like don't even fucking
let this be a testament, though, that despite that, we still come up with a pretty good product. I gotta say, you know what I mean. All right. Where's my?
What else happened this week?
So I had something come up for CJI. I don't know if you saw this, but Craig Jones, motherfucker, Craig Jones, has come out, and it's causing quite the shitstorm in the jiu-jitsu world. I don't know if you've seen this, but Craig Jones, who is the leader of the B team, so a little history lesson. Craig Jones is one of the greatest jiu-jitsu no-gi grapplers of all time, in my opinion. He's not necessarily on the Mount Rushmore, but he's damn near close. And he not only is he a great grappler, and he's trained with the Down There Death Squad before they split up, but he's also an amazing personality. I think he's so good for the sport in that, like, he kind of is paving the way for a lot of these guys that are like just one-dimensional in that they're really good at jiu-jitsu but don't know how to sell it to our sport. So like people are pissed off about how jiu-jitsu, like, high-level competitors don't get paid well. It's like, well, yeah, like, you don't know how to sell fights. Craig Jones is somebody that really knows how to. Speaking of the algorithm, he knows how to hit the algorithm. The B team's YouTube channel is pretty jokes. But anyway, so he actually is now creating like his own tournament, and he's offering a $1 million grand prize for the winners. I think it's just for one overall winner. It's
Wow.
So it's something that's different as well, is that it's confirmed to be in a combat pit. So I don't know if you've ever seen like the karate style where it's in a pit. So it's gonna be like that. And this is what's kind of causing a shitstorm in the jiu-jitsu world, is that it's scheduled to be on the same weekend as ADCC, which is, for the viewers that don't know what ADCC is, it's the Abu Dhabi Combat Club, and it's basically the Olympics of jiu-jitsu. It's the most prestigious tournament that happens every 2 years. The greatest grapplers in the world will either get invited to compete or have to win their ADCC like local trials to qualify and compete. And it's but so a big difference is that in that tournament, people are only awarded $10,000 to be division winners, and it's also on traditional mats, so it's not like a combat pit. And something that is already coming out is that, well, big names are already like signing up. So Fionn Davies, which is one of the best female grapplers in the world, she's signed up. The Tackett brothers, who won their ADCC trials, is giving up their ADCC spots to go compete, and it's kind of causing an uproar. So, for example, it's like Tom DeBlas, who's one of Gordon's like old coaches. He's out in, I think, Jersey. But a well-known name in the sport, and he was saying like, oh, he was kind of disappointed in the Tackett brothers for opting out of ADC in favor for that, and like, you know, he wants them to, because it's the Olympics, he wants them to represent the U.S. because they're really, really good, obviously. But I don't know. What do you think? Like, when you hear this, like, I don't know if you saw this happen, but what do you think? Is it good for the sport? Like, what do you think?
100%.
Right? Competition is always good.
100% is good for the sport. $1 million grand prize, bet that these
guys, dude, that's life-changing money.
And these guys train how often, bro? Like 3 times a day?
Every day.
3 times?
Multiple times a day. Exactly.
I say, fuck yeah. Like, run that. And, you know, bro, this is what you train for at the end of the day, those guys that do it like that at that level. So $1 million
$10,000 versus $1 million?
Yeah, it's like a
and you're going to hate on me for trying to go after
no-brainer
some life-changing money? Like, I'm sorry, no disrespect, Tom DeBlas, but come on, brother. How are you going to hate on me for that, brother? Come on.
And you're coming out with a more entertaining...
That's about Andrew Tackett, obviously, because I clearly did not qualify for ADCC.
You're coming out with a more entertaining product. It's going to have a lot more eyes. And knowing that Craig Jones is behind it, he's probably going to make it a lot more accessible to watch, too.
Yeah, flow grappling.
Flow grappling is terrible.
Trashiola.
If we want to see this sport evolve and take the next step as far as athletes, as far as the quality of the sport and the direction overall, we need to have more motherfuckers like Craig Jones that are pushing the boundary and not get stuck in our ways with the ADCC the way it is right now. Because honestly, even though ADCC is sick and all, but like just the whole like having to go through flow grappling first of all, and
it's not accessible at all.
It's not accessible, and just the format too of like, I kind of like how there's there's multiple matches going on at once. I want to just be able to see like a
one thing,
smaller
like a
thing,
highlight,
one thing at a
yeah,
time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
And so the combat stage would be sick for that. And I think the combat stage is also enclosed in like a fucking.
It's a pit.
It's a pit, right?
Yeah,
where
it's almost like an amphitheater.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
amphitheater.
yeah.
Right? So I think that would like just viewing wise, like viewing experience
Yeah.
is going to mop the floor with
That's why I think
aces.
that's better than the octagon, dude. Like there's
Yeah.
no cage like obstruction or anything.
That's
yeah.
perfect for grappling.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think this is great for the sport competition. Like, 'cause, like the thing is too is that it's so everybody looks at ADCC as the most prestigious because it's just been grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Right. And IBJJF, well, that's a joke. So like nobody watches IBJJF. Have you ever seen like the only people that watch that is the actual competitors, right? And I think if ADCC is not careful, man, you're gonna start seeing all these other like names come out and like potentially overtake ADCC as the most prestigious event. If enough big names start going to CGI, like this very well might be the new ADCC, right?
And brother, fair
play, 100%. Because like, look,
when was the last time ADCC has made any updates?
Mo's done a good job. Like the past couple of years, like in terms of just like it's the production value has gone up.
The production value has gone up
for sure. But like in terms of making it more accessible, they fucked up by having an exclusive deal with Flow Grappling.
Stupid.
Flow Grappling's gotten Flow Grappling is like the fucking blockbuster of the jiu-jitsu world, where it's just like, yo, there's gonna come a time where you're gonna get phased out. Exactly. And the thing is, they don't do a good job. Like if they did a good job and it'd be different, but they just don't. Constantly when you're watching their feeds, it's a shit feed. It's not the best. It's almost an amateurish production. And a lot of money goes to Flow Grappling.
Terrible.
But I think because they're the only name in the game right now, that they're just falling by the wayside. Like they don't really care as much as they probably should, right? And I think this competition is gonna fucking get them to their A game, because now you have ONE FC that's putting out grappling shows, some great grappling shows.
Yeah.
And UFC is also throwing out some great grappling shows with what do they call it? It's the Invitational. Exactly. So if ADC is not careful, man, they might be out the door. But honestly, I think they're still gonna get grandfathered in. But and people are still gonna kind of go to it. But it's gonna be interesting to see what if they like how they respond to it, if they do at all. So we're almost at time. There's a couple other things that I wanted to talk about, but maybe we could just table that. But one thing that maybe just we could rapid fire a couple things. So did you see that NCAA is gonna start paying college athletes?
Did.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
About time. Multi-billion-dollar industry, and all you have to offer these students is free classes. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. So good for them. Big dubs for collegiate athletes. And I think people from all the way from 2016 can apply. And the interesting thing about that, though, is if they choose to be part of this I think it's a class action lawsuit, they can't then sue them individually on their own afterwards. So it's basically just like hush money. So which tells me that if some of these athletes actually didn't take the deal and took them to court, they might have a fucking chance, especially with like the Skyline president. So I think there's more to come on that. The Dogecoin dog died. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, R.I.P. Doge. I don't know what the Doge.
Oh, the dog.
The Shiba Inu. Yeah.
Coin died. Yeah, I did see the dog die.
Yeah, Kabusu.
Oh man, yeah, 18 years. Man. Yeah, good for him, man. He's in a better place.
Yeah, and I don't know. We don't have to get into this, but maybe on next week's session is like some of the international students protesting, which I found really interesting, because technically, protesting is a right for citizens, not for immigrants.
Yeah, there you go.
Not for anybody without a PR. So that's an interesting topic I want to touch upon next week, because there's an emotional reaction to it and like a more level-headed reaction. I know I was a victim of both. So
I think I saw a clip too.
Yeah.
Elicited a little emotional. Yeah.
But anything else that stand out to you this past week? Just rapid fire.
Dude, man. Honestly, it's been a pretty busy week, so no, nothing much other than the NBA playoffs. Like it's really been
crazy.
That's really just been my entire week. Is just working the NBA playoffs at night. And so what a crazy playoffs we've
3-0, man. I mean, I guess we like for
Boston's
Boston
got the easiest path to the championship
easiest path
ever.
to the
Probably like
championship.
arguably all time.
Yeah.
Whereas on the other side, in the West, bro, the Mavericks.
Dude, Doncic.
Woo!
I love Doncic's competitive spirit, man.
I do too.
Go home, bitch.
I do too. I love it.
I love it. He's like, you can't motherfucking guard me.
And I saw this sick picture of
so sick.
I saw a sick picture of Luca. You know that scene of where Luffy meets Zoro for the first time?
Yeah.
But instead of Luffy and
Like in
Zoro,
the-
it's Luca and Kyrie.
And Kyrie?
Yeah, Kyrie and
dope.
Zoro. I fucking love
Dude.
that.
So in the One Piece world, I heard some crazy shit just got revealed on the manga.
Manga?
Yeah. Apparently,
I want to hear none of that.
Apparently, Imu's face got revealed.
I don't want to hear none of that.
I don't know the
Why
details.
would you tell me?
No,
Fucking A.
Imu's face got revealed. Like it's not that big of a fucking.
Yeah.
There's no spoiler there, right?
It's not, but
But yeah, I need to find out which chapter the manga's on the anime, and I want to get caught up on that too.
yeah,
Dude,
honestly,
fucking
Yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen, fire!
yeah.
Holy
Good.
shit!
You watched that? It's the second
The
season, right?
fucking like the actual fight scenes, bro.
Yeah, the fight season.
Fire!
The fight
So
scenes.
good.
Are you on the first or second season?
I'm on the second season.
The second
so
season.
right now, like who's the demon that possesses Senkaku? The demon that possesses the main character. What's his name? San.
Oh, Sukuna.
Sukuna. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he took over his body, like, but temporarily because he took out and he just killed the
Fire guy.
fire guy, bro. Woo!
Yeah, bro.
Fire!
Anime of the year.
So sick.
Anime of the year, bro.
Dude.
2023.
Oh my god. And
Yeah.
like there's so many fucking characters, it's hard to keep track, bro.
But that's the beauty of it. This is the first season. They were just doing bare. So that's what I was wondering too. That they were just doing bare. setup
So
on characters.
many, like
Just for them. And this is again spoiler
spoiler
alert.
alert. Yeah.
Guys. Go watch the fucking show if you haven't. But they just killed all those motherfuckers off.
Bro,
It's amazing.
they don't give a fuck.
It's amazing.
It's so good.
I fucking love it.
It's bro, and the thing is too, like I don't know if you saw in that video that I sent you, but yo, I got a sick projector and I have a fucking like pull down screen now.
Yeah.
I was watching that shit like in
Sheesh.
the theaters, bro. It was so
Oh,
sick.
yeah.
Bro, yeah, I got a bro. I'll show you. I got a
watched,
projector.
Bro, I've been watching the new Bleach. They did a new Bleach.
I heard.
It's fucking good, bro.
Fuck.
like, it's
So wait, how
fucking
many
good.
episodes is Bleach? Is it
The
like,
original, so the original one
yeah.
was like it was a shonen, so it was like
Fair.
200, like well over
Oh.
200 episodes. But then this new one that they do, where you don't really
don't need
have
to watch-
the end.
Really?
Yeah, you don't really have to.
Right.
But it's fucking good, and it's like what? Like the first season was only like 13 episodes. It's like a
Okay,
standard,
sick.
one
I
season
might
thing.
take that in then.
Dude, it's
Fire, eh?
they did it justice. They did that series a huge justice.
Upgrade?
Yeah,
Yeah,
upgrade
yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
It's fucking sick.
Dude, I can't like so I'm in like the end. I'm towards the end of season 2, bro, and I heard it just picks up even more,
Oh, yeah.
bro.
Dude, the manga's
Jujutsu
fuck right now
Kaisen?
too, man.
Jujutsu
A
Kaisen's
lot of-
manga?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That show's fucked.
Dude, just that scene where he's in the afterlife and he's just like, I didn't realize, like, where Sakuna is like talking to him in the afterlife.
Yeah, bro.
And then it just cuts to him like burnt. I was like, oh, so good, bro. Like, yo, those anime artists, chef's
Dude,
kiss, bro.
They're fucking
I
insane.
had to replay like, something hits when you just have to keep replaying that shit, bro.
You talking about Nanami, the blonde hair dude?
No. I'm talking about I've seen Nanami.
That one's fucked. Yeah.
I spoiled that shit for myself because I didn't even know what I was watching, and then I saw him. It was like the voice actor. Have you seen this clip?
Yeah.
When Nanami dies?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. So I haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't.
shit.
So I don't know. So I haven't spoiled it for myself in the sense that I don't know how it's gonna
Who was
lead
the
up to
guy
that.
burned himself.
The fire dude. The fire dude. Remember when
Oh.
Sakuna like he's just like, if you hit me, I'll serve you,
yeah.
all of you guys, and then they get into a fight. And then Sakuna's just like, you gotta like, yo, like respect, like you, like I've
put up a
faced sorcerers thousands of years ago, and you put up a good fight.
Yeah.
And then he just goes off into, and then it cuts out, and then you just see him like burnt into a crisp.
Yes, yeah. I do remember
Fucking
that.
fire,
Yeah.
bro. So good.
They Oh man, those writers are on another level. They did that show justice. They actually went on protest because they were working too hard, which is not that's not.
Who went on protest? Like
the
fans?
The studio.
Oh, the studio.
Yeah,
Really?
like, you guys are fucking killing us here, man. But
fuck yeah, we
gotta
gotta cut this.
Anyway,
all right.
Thanks for tuning into another episode. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everyone, and yeah, stay black.
Love.